Hello, cyberspace. It's me, Angie, and I welcome both you and your ears to an episode of Life, Love, Music, and Space Travel. In case you're wondering who Angie is, I'm Angie, and I'm super stoked to spend some time sharing with y'all some of my experiences and thoughts on living, loving, music, and space travel, or spiritual experiences as I often refer to as space travel. A rather broad spectrum, right? Well, my hope is to always share something that resonates with, intrigues, excites, or perhaps inspires you. On that note, I invite you to sit back, buckle up, and take a little trip out into the cosmos with me. Hello, cyberspace. It's me, Angie, coming to you with episode number 45 of my podcast, Life, Love, Music, and Space Travel. This episode is going to be a little bit challenging for me, I think. I've been sitting in front of the computer many nights over this week, turning it on, turning it off, and it's now a Tuesday night at about 11:30 p.m. As usual, I'm recording late night, but I don't want to put it off anymore. I've titled this episode Dogs, Lessons on Loving and Dying. This is a near to my heart episode. I just thought I wanted to share some of my experiences on the aforementioned dogs and the lessons I've learned on loving them and their transitioning. I recently had one of my little babes head on to his next great adventure. My little dude Chip, he would have been 15 in July. And last Thursday, which was 4/20, April 20th of 2023, I finally followed through with the decision to help him over the bridge. I did not do it alone. So grateful to have had the assistance of Coastal Pet Hospice and Euthanasia, along with Perkins Goodbye Hugs, who did the cremation services. But it was not an easy process to get there. This episode is really just going to be some reflection on the dogs that I have had the pleasure of sharing time with. Anybody who knows me knows that I love the animal kingdom, for one. I do love kitties. I have had a few kitties, but I love dogs. I've always had dogs, and I've kind of been reflecting and taking some notes because Chip's passing did not happen overnight. It's been kind of a long process. I'll get into it a little bit later, but it had me thinking about the dogs I've been able to spend some time with. Going back to the first dog I can really remember, her name was Susie Q Snappy Face K. And she was my cousin's dog. My Aunt Carol, Uncle Simon, my cousin Seth, it was their dog. I really need to call my cousin Seth and ask him about her, what kind of a dog she was. But I sort of remember that they referred to her as a footstool, sort of. So I'm guessing she was like a little chubby shorty pooch. I don't remember so much of her, but I definitely remember her name. And that was my real introduction. Later, I met Sheba. I'm not sure when she came along, but when my family and I moved to upstate New York, at some point Sheba came along, and she was a husky mix, I think. I'm not really sure. Maybe St. Bernard. She was kind of a big dog, and she was a wild one, always getting off the chain. She was outside, inside dog, but she was always getting loose, running wild through the Patron's field. I think we had the misfortune that she took out a couple chickens in her adventures, but I remember loving her, whatever that looked like. I was, I don't know, maybe 4th grade at the time. I think that's when we moved up there. So it seems like a long time ago, but I do remember spending time with her and petting her and loving her. I mean, it seems so long ago, but that I believe was my first real experience with having a dog as a quote pet. As far as her passing, the dying, she got off the leash, once again off the chain, and ran away and was hit by a car. And I'm not exactly sure how I felt at the time, but I definitely have that memory. Onward and upward, Sheba. Sheba was a good girl, as I recall. Wild, but a good girl. Next came Pumpkin. She was the first real dog that was mine. She was a Pomeranian Terrier. Oh man, I fell in love kind of immediately. I'm not exactly sure where we got her, but I do know that she was officially my first doggie. She looked like a little fox. She was just a cutie little thing. I don't know how old I was. Maybe I was 15. And although we did spend time together, my recollection, I imagine she slept in bed with me. I have this picture of her out in the field with us, or in our backyard, which sort of looked like a field. So I have that memory. But unfortunately, Pumpkin really taught me a lot about loss. She was one of my first real lessons in dying. We lived on a rural highway, and I remember I let her out, and I believe I might have forgotten to let her in. We had a long driveway, no street lights, and she got hit by a car. It was a crushing, overwhelming moment as far as I can recollect. I think my friend Jeannie might have been there. I don't really remember a whole lot about it other than huge grief. I really loved her. The guilt that I felt over her getting hit, I think some people stopped, not the people who hit her, but some people stopped and brought her up or asked her if she was our dog. And we had to take her to the vet. And that's where I think one of my first resentments, other than at myself, kicked in. I recall the vet wanting his money right away, and because it was late, later at night, and making sure we were going to be able to pay him. And sadly, Pumpkin did not make it. I believe that was the euthanization experience, mine for the first time. And I am going to put in there, I used to think that euthanasia was an ugly word, but my understanding is that it's a Greek word maybe, and it means good death. So it changes things for me. But I do recall bringing Pumpkin home, and it must have been winter because my recollection is of trying to bury her in the backyard. It was cold, the ground was hard. I remember being terribly sad. And eventually we buried her behind one of the lilac bushes, I think, in the corner of the yard. My thought is she's probably still there, and whoever owns the property has no idea. But Pumpkin was my first real love. I loved her, and I'm sorry for that experience, but I was sold on the idea of having a dog from that point on. She was just a wonderful cutie. And I'm not exactly sure when the time came, how much longer after that, but next came Panda. For those of you who have known me for a long time, you know or knew Panda. And I got her when I was 16, little tiny puppy. And she was just this tiny little ball of fur. I see old pictures of myself with her. I had to learn how to potty train her. And I don't remember so much of younger Panda. But as I got older, she was my girl. We went everywhere together. We drove places together. I took her with me everywhere. She was my gal pal. We used to go down to Dairy Frost ice cream place in Broadhalbin, and Panda always got a little cup of vanilla ice cream, and lessons on loving. We fell in love, and she just was my companion. I didn't know anything about what I was supposed to give her and not give her in those days. I'm not exactly sure what I fed her, but I think of over the time that I spent with her, she ate everything. She got into everything. She ate a pair of my glasses. She would eat ice cream. I gave her grapes. I had no idea how bad they were supposedly for for dogs, but she lived to be 16 and a half. I'll just preface my whole share on Panda. I got her when I was 16. She lived to be 16 and a half years old, the oldest of any dogs I have had the pleasure of sharing life with. My goodness, she was just my girl. When I moved to Colorado, she came with me. I remember I was staying with my friend Jay, and he had a dog, Stormy, and Panda was this spaniel mix, but she was a Spitfire, and she could hold her own. Not that, Stormy was kind of I don't know if she wasn't a wolf, but she was some sort of husky wolf breedish kind of doggy, and Panda could hold her own. She was a badass. I had to fly her back home to New York. She had more flight miles, I think, than I've ever had. I put her in the crate, and I didn't know much about flying dogs at that time. She flew under the plane in cargo, I'm sure, but she traveled back and forth. I couldn't keep her at certain places because they wouldn't allow pets, so Mom and Dad were always gracious enough to take her back in. I missed her dearly. She was my girl. I think about the fact that today I don't have any human children of my own. I've never raised a child, but my dogs are, they have been my kids, and Panda was really the first with longevity. She was just, I have so many pictures of her. We did things together, went everywhere together. She was just my girl. Sometimes I thought she'd live forever. I really did. When I lived in Red Cliff in Colorado, and I moved in to the Pacheco house. This was actually around the time when I had been kicked out of my house 4 days before Christmas. A very pivotal point in my journey of recovery and self-discovery. Some things took place, but Panda and I had to move out, and she was about, at that point, maybe she was 12. I think, and we moved into the Pacheco house, and I moved into this house with 4 guys and their 4 unneutered dogs. Here was Panda, 12 years old, the spaniel mix, living with a short-haired shepherd, a long-haired shepherd. That was Diogi and Maxwell. Buddha, the Rottweiler. Who else? Nugget, who was a yellow lab. There might have been 2 other dogs in the house. But Panda was like the Wolverine in her little hut. Once again, really ruling the roost. You didn't mess with her, and she was a scavenger. I remember we had this garbage can in the kitchen, and we had to put a rock in the bottom because she would pull it over. Oh, she got into everything. But man, I loved that girl. And as mentioned, I really did think she'd live forever sometimes. And along the way, right around that time, I actually met who would become my eventual husband. And at times as I reflect back, I felt like she waited for me. She lived for about, let's see, when I finally met him, it was 2 years later, so she was 14, and we had about two and a half years together, and he had a Rottweiler also, Sass, and surprisingly, they got along pretty well. He loved his dog, I loved my dog, we loved both of the dogs. It was really, they were really good times. We hiked and played, and, we did plenty of stuff with them. It was wonderful. Then we moved down into Westvale, and I recall, Panda was a scavenger. She was an eater, and we had reached a point where I knew there was something wrong, and she wasn't eating so well. I contacted a vet. We took her in for some work and stuff. It ended up she had late-stage kidney disease, was in renal failure, I think, as they call it. And I remember I was told she had about 2 weeks. At that point, I decided I was not going to work. I stopped working for 2 weeks. I spent my time with her. It was, there were no other choices. This babe had been with me through thick and thin, had taught me so much about loving and companionship and steadfast, unconditional love. I was about 2 years sober and had no idea that I was just about to head into what would be the most challenging time in my life up to that point in my life. I didn't know what to do. I hemmed and hawed and wasn't sure and progressively changed her diet and got to the same point that I recently reached with Chip. But with Panda, I called the church. I wasn't sure about the euthanasia process. I was afraid. I was hoping that maybe she would just transition on her own, but that's not the way it went. And her and I had a meeting of the minds in the hallway one night, I remember, and I thought, this is definitely not fun for her anymore. I don't feel like I had waited too long, but I knew that that was the time. And I'm grateful for that understanding. And maybe the next day I called Sheila, Mountain Mobile Vet, Sheila Fitzpatrick. She was my vet for the most part, her facility for 18 years. And Sheila came to the house. I wouldn't do it any other way if I had the choice. She came to the house and went through the process. It was the greatest loss I had ever felt at that point. But she was ready. She gave her the first shot, and pretty much she was out. The second shot, definitely, it was a very quick process, which I'm grateful for. And I recall after that, going into my bedroom, I remember sobbing. We were living at a place in Intermountain, and I was staring out my window, sobbing. My grief was, I definitely wasn't familiar with the grief process, so I wasn't grieving prior. I was definitely in a very fearful place the whole time. So much uncertainty. But at that point, she was gone. I couldn't change anything. And as I was sobbing, I was staring out my window, this aspen tree. I remember this particular branch, from the tip of the branch to the end, it was Panda. I'm not sure that I can convey it properly over the cyberspace audio world, but there were these 4 legs blowing in the breeze, the tip of her nose, these branch that looked like her ears, and her tail. And I'm sure we could all excuse it or make it out to be anything. Who knows what I wanted to see, but that was an incredible spiritual experience that changed things for me and helped me to understand that these beings that I am participating with and sharing life with, I am connected with them. And she really helped to build my belief that this isn't the end. She had not just disappeared, but had gone on, and there she was, running like the wind. It was beautiful, and it changed my perspective of her passing, her dying, her transitioning. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for that moment. And I'm so grateful that I got to spend time with her and for the lessons that she taught me. I loved her. I love her. She's been gone almost 20 years now. That was 2003. I think about her every day. I never thought I'd get another dog. I didn't think I'd get another dog. And I didn't for about 4 months. But I knew the love. I happened to be walking through Vail at one of the bookstores in Vail, and I can't remember the name of it. I don't think it's open anymore. But it was actually it might have been in Lion's Head area. And there were these 2 dogs in there, 2 Papillons, one older, one younger. They both looked to be the same age. I had never seen a Papillon before, and I fell in love, and I thought, that's the dog that I want. And although I would never, with the knowledge I have today, purchase a dog, I decided to look up Papillons. I had never seen the breed before. I found a person in Shawnee, Colorado, I think it was, or Bailey, something like that. And they had some Papillon puppies. Sean and I went I had actually put down a down payment maybe or done something like that. And on Easter Sunday of 2004, I think it might have been, because Panda passed on October 13th of 2003. So it was a little bit later, but on Easter Sunday, we went and picked up our little puppy who would become to be known as Daffodil. She was this tiny little pipsqueak. And I remember we had Sassafras, the big Rottweiler, and we thought, oh my gosh, she's either going to eat her or she's going to love her. She slept in my lap the whole way. She was tiny. Maybe she was 2 pounds, if that. She seemed like this tiny little ball of fur. And who knew she would be such a spitfire? She was my next one. I was in love immediately. And she was a challenge. She had hypoglycemia. So little dogs, she'd get all bobbly headed and we'd have to give her this medicine stuff to put her blood sugar up. And I felt like it was the closest thing I'd had to having a baby. She was a fair amount of work. Had to let her out. She only slept like 2 hours at a time. But thank goodness her and Sass just also fell in love. We had put up this fence in the kitchen to try and keep her in and keep Sass out just to be safe. And whenever we came home, they would be sitting at the top of the stairs and we couldn't figure out, like, how was she getting out? She wasn't that tiny to fit through the hole of this little plastic fence. But eventually we found out that somebody had chewed a hole in it, and we're pretty sure it was Sass. And Sass just loved her. She certainly wasn't going to eat her, but she might lick her to death. She was always licking her and grooming her. They loved each other. It was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. There was a challenge when I first met Sass, kind of going back a little bit. When I first met her, she made it known that my guy at the time was her man. And she stood her ground when she conceded to let me be a part of the family and gave up her space in the bed. I really appreciated and respected what she was doing for me because she loved her man. I'm so grateful that her and Daffodil, they loved each other. And when the time came that Sass, she had degenerative disc disease. I wasn't home the day. We knew something had happened one morning. All of a sudden, her back was really tender. It ended up that day that Sean had to call the vet and have Sheila come to the house. Also, something had happened and she couldn't walk. Very sad. It was very sad. The loss of a loved one is very sad. I'm not sure how long it was. Actually, I guess I take that back. Before that took place, Bristles came into play. So we had Daffodil and Sass, and on I don't remember what day it was, but my husband at the time and I were about to go out and take a motorcycle ride, and we walked out the fence, outside of the fence area, and there was this little tiny dog standing in the road on the corner of Arts Court and, where we lived, Prince Alley. And I thought, oh my goodness, I think this truck came around the corner and I don't know how it didn't run her over. She was this tiny little ball of white fur. Motorcycle ride got put aside and I walked down the street slowly, trying to corral this little tiny fur baby. Eventually, after a while, she finally laid down and let me pick her up. And we brought her home, and we were kind of thinking she might be a boy. And we had not had Daffodil fixed yet. So we thought, oh, maybe they could have some puppies. But come to find out, this little babe she was a she. And thinking that somebody would be missing her, we called animal control, or we took her to the shelter. And we lived in Eagle, Colorado, and it was a no-kill shelter. I felt very comfortable, and I knew that's what you did. You took the dogs to the shelter or whatever in case their person was looking for them. And there was I think it was a 2-week waiting period. I kept checking on her. Nobody came for her. She was meant to be for us. And one day I went and picked up who would come to be known as Bristles. Bristles was... she was like a little Cairn Terrier Chihuahua maybe, and she was a badass. Kind of right from the beginning, we called her Rocket Dog. She came in with the name Rita. I think that was her name from the shelter. But Sean called her Bristles because she kind of had hair like a bristle brush. And she was just, oh man, she was something else. Talking about love. She just fit into the household. She would run and Sean would be on his hands and knees, and she would run, jump up onto his back and launch like off of his shoulders over his head, run circles around the house. It was, oh my goodness, they added so much life to the house. All three of them they loved each other. Everybody got along really well. I remember the day that I brought her home was the day I fell down my back stairs. Brought her home. I happened to be walking outside. I was going to let her outside. I had these socks on. She's in my right arm, I think, under my right arm, and I'm walking down the stairs. I slipped and I fell down the back stairs. Broke my ankle. I don't know where Bristles went in that process other than the fact that she ended up at the bottom of the stairs, I think. Thank goodness she didn't die. I didn't die. I had to pull myself up the back stairs and call 911. Nobody was in the neighborhood as I'm yelling out, "Help me." I finally get upstairs. Sean wasn't home. So I get upstairs. I call 911. I remember the police officer came inside. I don't know if they came in the front door or the back door, but we didn't have a door on the bedroom at the time. And so the police officer comes in. There's Sass, big Rottweiler. She could have been growling. I don't know. I feel like they asked me if we could put her in the bedroom. And I was like, no, I'm sorry, because there's not a door in the bedroom. But that was the day that Bristles came home. I ended up going to the hospital. Ambulance came and got me. And I don't know what happened while I was gone. I just know that there were Bristles, Daffodil, and Sass all in the house. 3 dogs. And everything was fine when I came home that night. I think I had to have surgery. I got a metal plate in my ankle or a couple screws and something like that. That was Bristles' homecoming. They all just fit in. They were the greatest bunch. We have this, I think it's a picture. Sass is laying on the couch. Daffodil's next to her, I think, and Bristles is standing on top of Sass. If I recall the picture correctly, it was a perfect crew. So much love. And at some point, I'm not exactly sure when, but Sass did pass on. It wasn't the same. There was a void for sure that you can't replace with another dog by any means. I don't know how long it was that we had the 2. Time seems to strangely run together. But what I do know is that eventually I headed off one day to the shelter, the Eagle County Animal Shelter. They do great things. My dear friend Jeannie works there, and they're lucky to have her. But I headed to the shelter with a bag of dog food, and I thought, I'm going to drop off this dog food, and that's going to be it. Well, I dropped off the dog food, and I couldn't help it. I said, do y'all have any small dogs? And they said, how about Chip? And I thought, all right, let's check out Chip. And they brought out this little dude. He was a rat terrier chihuahua mix. Just a smooth, beautiful white coat with this dark bullseye on his butt around his tail and these beautiful brown colors on his head. He looked very much like Daffodil. She was a Papillon, long hair, but they had the same colors. He just looked like he was shaved, pretty much her. And I thought, oh my goodness, Chip. I had not personally had a male dog ever. I kind of think I contacted the husband and said, how would you feel about a little guy? And he loved the dogs as much as I did. He's a dog dude. And Chip came home. I left the shelter about 100 pounds lighter with the dog food, $100 lighter with the adoption fees, and 10 pounds heavier, which is maybe what Chip weighed at the time. And he came home. Oh my goodness. The girls, Daffodil was always kind of into her own world, but Bristles just loved him. Chased him around the house. I have these great videos. chasing him around the house. I mean, it's always been so wonderful to bring them home and see them relax, give them a place to run around. We had a big upstairs, a big downstairs, a big yard. I'm so grateful that we were able to offer it to these babes and give them a place to live, a wonderful space to find comfort and relax and just be dogs. They all were quite the crew. I mean, I have these beautiful pictures of all of them. Daffodil and Chip lounging on the swing outside and snuggled up together. Lots of them with Bristles. And I mean, they really all loved each other. We had this very cool kitchen, big kitchen window, and we set up this lounge chair sort of in front of it. Not a lounge chair, but some kind of almost like a couch, a bench. And so we would lay these blankets out and they would lounge in front of the window and soak up the sun and bark at the neighbors. And man, oh man, they were the pack. When we got Chip, he was 1. Bristles was 1 when we got her. So she was 2, he was 1. And I think Daffodil was 3. They were all pretty close in age. Love. They are furry balls of love. I mean, the lessons that I learned from them, when I think about lessons on loving, teaching them, potty training them, offering them the discipline that they needed, making sure that they got fed, they were my priority for sure. I'm grateful for them. My life sort of revolved around them. Their love for me was unconditional, and I couldn't give them any less. It is a gift to provide shelter for another being. It's been an honor. We had long times with them. Time continued to go on, and next came Marshmelly. And it was interesting because my mom happened to be in town at the time visiting, and there was a picture in the paper of a dog that looked like Bristles. I thought, oh no. And my mom said, if you adopt her, I'll pay for it. So we went and checked her out at the vet at the shelter. And I do remember going in and it was loud. There were lots of dogs there and there were lots of barking. And she was just this little thing. She was like a little poodle terrier mix, maybe, something like that. She just I feel like she looked nervous. I thought, oh my gosh, she's got to come home. I don't know if the husband was quite as excited initially as I was, but I just knew she was coming home. And he conceded because he loves dogs. And Marshmallow came home. I can't remember Missy, that was her name. But I knew right away she was a marshmallow. I'll never forget. She came home and her tail was wagging. She's going to be 12 in August and her tail has not stopped wagging. Everybody notices it. We go to the vet. Everybody notices her tail. She's just this loving, adoring ball of fur. But what I also remember in bringing her home was that she didn't want to go to sleep. It was like she was afraid to close her eyes. And she was licking. I was talking to Sean not too long ago, and he's like, do you remember how Marshmallow, she wouldn't stop licking us? It was like this nervous thing. I think they had found her on the street in Gypsum somewhere, Colorado. So, I mean, not a huge town by any means, but they picked her up. That's how she ended up at the shelter. She was not a drop-off. She didn't want to close her eyes. And because I remember it was like we got her at 10 o'clock in the morning or something, and she was up until 10 o'clock at night, and it was everything she could do to keep her eyes open. I thought, she just wants to stay awake. And when she finally fell asleep, once again, it brought me to this place of, here's this little being who needs a home, and that's what I can provide. It's been an act of service to make it important to provide shelter and love when and where I can. I know people adopt children. People do all kinds of service work for others to provide them comfort and love. And I've been able to do that with dogs. She fell in love with Chip. It was Daffodil, Bristles, Chip, and Marshmallow. And Daffodil's always been, she was the pedigree, neurotic. She's always enjoyed time on her own. So she sort of entertained herself. She loved the ball nut. Her teeth eventually all kind of fell out. Little dogs are notorious for bad teeth, which is another area of service. We spent a lot of money getting their teeth pulled out. We regularly had to have them cleaned, and it's expensive. But Daffodil's teeth would get loose because she always had a tennis ball, and she was a little dog. She loved that tennis ball. She would go out into the snow and bury it I always thought of her as like a little mini Great Pyrenees or Bernese Mountain Dog. She loved the snow. She would come up all covered in snowballs. And, interesting, when her teeth came out and she couldn't really hold the ball, I feel like that's when she started to age. It wasn't, not to say that she couldn't play, but I don't exactly know when she really started to get older. But we had many years of all four of them loving each other, spending time with each other, snuggling with each other. They all got along very well, and I'm so grateful. Like I said, they all taught me so much about loving. And with it, as I had not forgotten from Panda, I knew how things play out. That's the thing about a pet. The first one to go and head on was Daffodil. We had some challenging times. Dogs are expensive. It was a commitment, or at least the vet was expensive. And so we had times when we hemmed and hawed here and there about whether we could take them in or how much it was going to cost. And it was after hours. And I hated those times. Did we have the money to pay for it because they wanted the money up front? Well, there came a point when Daffodil, something happened. She had this very weird cough one morning. She had been showing some signs of weakness on her hind end. She was 13 at the time. And this was actually right around April. And the day would have been exactly April 21st. I think it's been 7 years. And we took her to the vet, and she died at the vet. We didn't expect it. We didn't know what happened. So for all of the loving, in just a moment, I'm so grateful for 13 years. But in those few hours when she died at the vet, in Sean's arms, oh my goodness, not expecting it, not knowing what happened really was, oof. Ooh, it was a tough one. And there came a lesson in dying, and the letting go, and the surprise, and the grief that comes with loving. And Daffodil headed on to her next great adventure. And what I recollect, also dogs teaching me about loving and dying. We came home that day, obviously, without Daffodil. And I'm not sure how soon it happened, but Bristles and Chip never ate out of their standard dog bowl again. At some point, their grief kicked in. Somebody might call it something else, but they stopped eating. We had to hand feed them and make them plates. And Chip in particular, he had this bullseye on his butt, this dark brown circle. He was all white for the most part, like I said, but he had this brown circle around his butt, and a good portion of it turned white. He loved Daffodil. He did. Him and Bristles definitely ran around and chased each other, but him and Daffodil were buddies. That wasn't lost on me, that these beings love each other. And they knew she was gone. I try not to humanize the dog's feelings and stuff, but it was unmistakable. Something took place. His hair turned white, and they never ate out of those bowls again. Things changed. Everyone got their own dog bowl after that. Food changed. The household eventually went back to normal-ish. But eventually came the next time And the next experience was Bristles. I'm fairly obsessive about the dogs. Not obsessive, but I check them. I know when things are up. And I noticed this bump on Bristles' underjaw. And she was a little dog, Cairn Terrier Chihuahua, as I mentioned. I took her to the vet and I said, there's something going on under here. The vet actually told me at the time that she thought it was scar tissue or something from where a tooth had been pulled out. And I thought, nope, it's definitely not it. I don't know what it is, but I was diligent about requesting what it was. And when I went back, we ended up finding out that she had bone cancer of the jaw. And she was a little tyke, almost 15 at the time. There weren't a whole lot of options. They also said that she had moth bone or something like that, where the bone in her jaw was very thin. So from that point on, it became really kind of a day-to-day thing in watching her. And we both went into love mode, the husband and I. It was challenging. Feeding her was different. She wasn't always eating. Diet changed. She was on some kind of meds because she also had early stage kidney issues. And so she was taking some pills. But even with this stuff, we took care of her until we knew she was ready. As ready as one can tell. I don't feel like we waited too long, and we didn't do it too early by any means. That act of love in caring for her, on the floor feedings, once again, that experience taught me about love and the willingness to go to any lengths to take care of and allow another being the dignity to get old in a safe and loving space. It's not easy getting old. Taking care of her was the only option. I wasn't going to take her to the pound and abandon her. I wasn't going to give her to anybody else and abandon her. I wasn't going to euthanize her early. I gave back the love that she gave to me. And when the time came, we knew it. We had the opportunity to have Sheila come to the house. And that was the second time Sheila had come to the house for me. Third time for all of us together. Panda, Sass, and now Bristles. When all of this was taking place, it was in the beginning of COVID. I wasn't working. Everything had shut down. So I got to spend the last 4 or 5 months, or whatever that was, 3 months with Bristles, home, out on the patio, hanging out on the back deck, naps in the sun. It was really nice. And thank goodness that the protocols had changed. So when the time came to help her along on her journey, help her to transition, that we were able to do it in the house. Because prior to that, people were having to go to the vet and be outside. And, we would have done that as well. But being in the house, Sheila came in and Bristles was on her bed in a safe, comfortable space. And I'll never forget, we used to call her, I think I said it earlier, Rocket Dog. Because she looked like, if anyone has seen those shoes, there's a shoe brand called Rocket Dog. And it has like this little chihuahua, looks all kind of not scrunched up, but like it's going to take off. And as she would launch off of Sean's back. And we had nicknames for all the dogs, but Rocket Dog was definitely one of them. And when the vet came over, I'll never forget, they gave her the first shot, which puts them quote to sleep. Then she gave her the second shot, and it could have been just a reaction to the medicine, but her little back leg stretched out with the shot that would send her off over the bridge. Her little back leg stretched out. I swear it was like she was launching off into space, into the next journey, out of this world and into the next. I mean, we can make anything of anything, but I feel like it was this beautiful Rocket Dog was taken off. I'm grateful for those moments. I feel like that's it. Energy doesn't die. It just transitions. Onward and upward. Went little Bristly. Definitely did not feel that way in the process, other than, it was sad. There was crying. It was emotional, but it was also, as I've come to understand, we were doing a great service. We don't do that for the human world, sadly enough. She was leaving with dignity and not having to suffer until the end. Yeah, another lesson. Baby bee onward and upward. Queen bee heading off to meet up with her buddy Daffodil and Sassafras. And we moved through that experience. Now, here I am in North Carolina. I came here after the move with Chippo and Marshmallow, 2 buddies. I mean, they really, especially Marshmallow, she loves the dude. And it's been a ride. Prior to my heading here, Chip was actually diagnosed with a small mass on his lung. So before we left Colorado, I was told that he had this little mass they had found on somewhere between his heart and his lung. And they couldn't do a biopsy on it because of the location. And he was older. He would have been 15, so he was like 13 and a half. And so we just decided to watch it. He'd also had kidney stuff going on, but I'm sold on the good food because the good kidney specific food, dog food, really changed their numbers over the years, and neither of them ever ended up with renal failure. That was not what took them out. We've been here now for a year and a half, and I've taken them to the vet, and I had gotten Chip's radiographs done, and it was about maybe a month and a half ago when he had his last radiographs done. Prior to that, they always came out the same. The mass hadn't changed at all. But this last set of radiographs, the mass had changed and it had gotten bigger. Some stuff had started to change with him. I had noticed some neurological stuff. There was some twitching stuff. I mean, he was almost 15, for goodness sake. And so the last month and a half has been kind of challenging. Now, prior to that, I had still been catering to my dude. He was picky. He didn't like his food all touching on his plate, so I got it like a king's plate. My dad would always say, he's like, it looks like my dinner plate. He kind of ate when he wanted to. I gave him my time. I love him. He deserved it. The last year and a half has been kind of a lot of catering. They just transitioned in a big move with me. Animals are aware, the space is different, things have changed. They've been in the same place for his whole life, and now we're in North Carolina in a new room, and things are different. So I've catered to my babes, and especially this last month and a half, things started to change pretty quickly. I did what I could, but in the last, let's say 2 weeks, he wasn't really eating as much. He was getting really picky, so I was changing his food out, and I was doing a lot of praying. Because it was one of those where am I sure? Is it his time? Is it not his time? What am I doing? Am I making the right decision? Prior to this, I had always had the now ex-husband. We made these decisions together. And this one was challenging for me because I was here. My parents are here, but this decision was mine to make. And I did a lot of praying, asking for guidance. When is it time? He never seemed to be in pain. I took him out at night when it seemed like he was using the bathroom more, taking a leak more. I didn't get angry. He didn't piss me off. I was patient with my little old dude. He started out as my dapper dude and turned into kind of the snarky senior. He got bossy and he couldn't really see so well anymore. He couldn't hear, but I let him get old. I mean, what a gift. I let him get old with dignity. It was a very important factor for me. And I don't know how long it was ago, but at some point my mom had come home one day and she's like, or she had pulled out this article in the paper in some magazine, and it was for the coastal pet hospice. It's just been kind of on the corkboard for a while now. And I'm so grateful that she found it because it really helped me. I felt comfortable in knowing that I had this option. When the time came, I was grateful that I wasn't going to have to take him to the vet unless it was an emergency. about a week and a half, things started to get kind of intense. Things were changing with him. I could tell he seemed to be a little confused, and maybe there was some dementia there. I mean, as we know, humans live too long, I think, sometimes with dementia and issues, but I let him do his thing. This act of love, this lesson I had learned to allow, once again, I know I'm repeating it, but the dignity for another being to get old. Let them get old in a safe space. Allow them to walk their journey. Then it was about a week ago when I started thinking, okay, I think it's going to be time to make the decision. Today, tomorrow. Eventually I took the step. I called the hospice. I talked to them. I think I might have set a date, and then I called back and changed it. I might have called them again or texted them and changed it. And I do want to give big props, first of all, for anyone back in Colorado who needs a vet. I will suggest, I probably had challenges, personality challenges with my vet, Sheila, but she was steadfast, and I would suggest her to anybody who's looking for a vet. I had the same vet for 18 years. Coming here and changing to a new vet was challenging, but the pet hospice group is separate from the vet. Her name is Megan Talo. She was the gal who came to the house. She was the woman that I talked to. I definitely will give great reviews for them because she was wonderful. She made me feel comfortable when I finally made the decision. She said, just let us know day to day. We're flexible. She understood. I can't speak enough about the people who do this kind of work. I finally made the decision, and I felt good about it. I hung out with my dude. We had walks out on the patio. He was getting yummy food and the fruits and stuff that he likes. I just loved him. I loved him, and it was overwhelming and challenging at times. I knew what was coming. I knew there wasn't any going back. Any prolonging from this point would be for me, and I was not about to do that. And so then the day came, and it was at noon. She came to the house and talked to me kind of about some things, and Chip met her at the door, and she comforted me because she said most of the dogs that, or pets that she comes to the house to assist over the bridge meet her at the door. I feel like she would have told me if she felt any differently about what was going on. So there was some validation in that I was making the right decision. She explained the process to me. My mom was out on the porch with her dog Cole and Marshmallow. We kept them outside, and I hung out in the living room, and he was in his bed. Sat down when he finally got comfortable in his space, and she gave him the first shot. And he actually, he's, those little dogs, he's never really liked shots. So he did yelp a little bit, which made me nervous. So I gave him some cheese and he ate it, and he was okay. I hung out with him. She told me to take my time. The medicine kicked in. It's just the first one that sort of just puts them to sleep. And I hung out with him. And I'm so grateful for the courage that I've gained over the years to be able to do that, to be there with him, to not be so afraid of the feelings that I leave him alone. I hung out with him and talked with him and told him it was okay to go when he's ready, cross over. I feel like sometimes it sounds corny, but that's what I did. And then she came in and she gave him the second shot that helped him over the bridge. It was peaceful. It was peaceful. I feel like he's onward. I spent some time with him, and then I brought Marshmallow in, and I thought, well, I'll let her check him out. And she came in and it was like he was invisible. She smelled the vet and wasn't fazed by it. And that's just another act of dogs teaching me to not put my human feelings on them. She kind of ran around the house and did her thing and didn't seem to notice. And then I wrapped him up in his blanket And I carried him outside, and the gentleman from the crematorium was there. And he had this little pillow, laid him in the back of the car and put his head on this pillow. It was really sweet. I mean, the whole thing was really kind and gentle and graceful. And that was it. It was vastly different, I'll say, from the experience 20 years ago with Panda. I couldn't have changed it at all back then. I didn't know what I didn't know, but she taught me. Through her experience, I learned. It's allowed me to continue on and have this other experience. Like, I don't ever not want to have a dog because I'm afraid of this. There may come a time when I don't have a dog because I'm old and I don't want to leave them. I'll have to make sure that they have some sort of place to go if I happen to die first. Chip has headed off. His ashes arrived the next day in this beautiful little wooden box, and he's sitting on the shelf. I have all the other dogs. Also, I've had them all cremated, and I need to get their ashes. When I left, I couldn't bring everything with me. I had packed quite a few things away, so I look forward to bringing the ashes here. He's not in the box. But the memorial side of things, maybe some think it's morbid, but I'll keep the ashes for now. Maybe I'll turn them into diamonds at some point. But I do feel like his pack was waiting for him. And I find comfort in that. I like to think that when I head off, my pack will be waiting for me. My human pack and for sure, the animal kingdom pack. Now it's Marshmallow and I. It's interesting. This is the first time in 20 years that I have one dog. And my parents had two dogs. Their dog, Haley, actually passed on about maybe 3 months ago. And I'm grateful that now Cole and Marshmallow, they at least have each other. But it's interesting. I mean, I'm not in Marshmallow's head. I don't know what she's thinking. I have not moved any of Chip's stuff because they use the same beds, and I'm not going to get rid of his stuff. I have his little sweater, but I'm watching her just to make sure that, my lesson in love continues. I do care for her, and I'm pretty sure, I feel like the last couple days, because it's been almost a week, that she's kind of been acting a little differently. I can't really put my finger on it, but I'm sure she notices that he's gone. He was a little guy who took up a lot of space. He filled the room, a little Chip dude, for sure. And here I am now. What is it that I'm hoping to get across through this long share? I appreciate everybody who's listened. It's my ode to my dogs. They have so much to teach us, the animal kingdom, in their living, loving, and definitely in their dying. The letting go for us, the grieving, sharing love, and helping them when we can to transition in a safe and loving manner. It's a gift that I don't take lightly, and it's an honor, ultimately. Marshmallow and I can hear her snoring. She's over laying on the bed. Here's to the rest of our journey. I want to give a shout out to my dogs, my sweet pumpkin, my panda bear, aka Pip, Bug, Ladybug, P-Dog, Granny, my girl. She was definitely my girl, and I've dreamt about her. I've dreamt about almost all of them. I think maybe I even had a dream about Chip recently, but I have dreamt about all of them, and I'm grateful for getting to pet them again in my dreams. Sassafras, for sure. She was something else. My daffodil, Doodle, Squeaky Beak, Snarky Bark, Fuzzy Bear. She was just one of a kind. There's no replacing any other animal that comes along. There's no replacing them. Someone I heard said they all take a little piece of my heart with them to open up space for another one. And I kind of like that. I can't imagine not having a pooch. And Chip dude, my little dude. I don't know if I'll have another male dog. He was my one and only dude dog. I love him. and I miss him. I do. I will say it was interesting that after he passed on, I felt lighter. I'm pretty sure he felt lighter. It's an experience that I am very grateful to have had a willingness to participate in, to give him what he deserved. Love. Oh, so more will be revealed as I continue my journey with Marshmelly. I don't imagine I'll be adding another pooch to the pack anytime soon. I look forward to her and I spending time together and continuing to deepen my love with my furry babe Marshmelly. But here's to all of your dogs out there, all your cats, all your lizards, your birds. Here's to the animal kingdom and the lessons we have to learn from them. Lessons on loving and dying. Don't take it lightly. Don't escape it. Feel the grief, feel the challenge that comes with their transitioning, but soak up every bit of time you have with them. They are special, special beings that are definitely here to teach us. We have a lot to learn from them for sure. Thanks for listening. Thanks for holding space for me. It's been quite a bit of a challenge and experience these last few weeks, and I'm very grateful for everybody who has supported me and offered prayers of peace and condolences. And please send out prayers that Chip is met up with his pack and they're all enjoying time together. But really, all of your love out there, I don't take it lightly, and I appreciate everybody's sending their love to me and helping me through this time. And on that note, I'm going to say goodnight because it's now 12:40 in the morning. Thanks for listening once again, and I will talk to you again soon. Ciao for now. Bye. So we've reached the end of today's episode. Thanks so very much for listening. It's now time to reconnect to planet Earth and all that comes with living on the blue ball. I'd love to hear your ideas for future episode topics, along with any and all positive and or constructive feedback. Please feel free to contact me at ashyisbadass@gmail.com. Thanks again for spending some time with me and allowing me to share myself with you. Until next time, please be gentle with yourselves, be kind to animals, and do all you can to allow your authentic selves to shine brightly.